In this Facebook group that I run, and we have several other admins and moderators, we really want to try to help other banjo players learn and really grasp the idea of playing not only playing the banjo. So what we're going to do here is this is a song that I shared yesterday. Uh, I'll Fly Away. Now this is off of the Bluegrass backing track. That's what the YouTube channel is, which I'm gonna go straight to there right now. And you can see this is what the video looks like. Okay, when you play the video, that's what it looks like. Now here we see that it has a G, C, and D. That's really all this song has in this version is the three major chords, G, C, and D. And we got to look. We really got to look at this and say, okay, why is this G chord so long before it gets to the C? Or why, like I hear, it's just two measures before it gets to the third measure and the C. Then it goes back to G for 1, 2, 3, and a quarter measures before it gets to D. That's a long time going from one chord to the next. What I'm going to do, and let's look at this. Even on Strum Machine, the basic Strum Machine, that pattern they have is still the same thing, G, C, and D. You could play this song in G, C, and D, and you, rhythm-wise, wouldn't know much difference. But there are other chords in this that you're not hearing, or that you hear it and you don't know it's there. And let's break this down to what can be thrown in this song to make it sound a little smoother. Now, I'm going to call them certain things. Now, they may not be called this in technical terms, but if I say it in the way I like to say it, you'd understand it better. In order to go from G to C, especially with two measures, I might want to throw in a seventh chord, a G7. You're thinking, why do I want to throw a G7 in there? Just go from G to C. Well, G, the G chord itself has three. All major chords has three notes. All major chords have three notes. So each one of these chords you see here has got three notes to make a chord. What I want you to do is like what I call a transition chord. That's what I call it. You can call it what you want. But transitions from the G to the fourth chord C. Now, how would I be able to do that? I want to throw in a note within that chord that says, hey, I'm going to go to a different chord now. And by using the 1/7, or in this particular case, a G7, I'm adding an F note in. And F is the fourth chord of C. So it's kind of like, okay, this is the direction I'm going. So whenever you play a G to G7 to C, every time you play it, you G to G7, I would say about 95 to 97% or more. When you play a G7, you're going to a C chord. It's kind of like a transition chord going from one chord to the next, to the 1 to the 4. It's throw that 1/7 in. So if I'm playing an A, it'd be A7D. Throw that 1/7. Okay, so G, G7, C. Then what about this long run here, this long G run here? How come it's a long G here? Well, what can I put in there that'll sound close, but at least give you a distinction to notice there's something different about this? Because it's not just when I say some glad morning when this life is over, I'll fly away to that home on God's celestial shore. You can sing it just all in the G. Okay, but what if I throw an E minor in? Now, what's the main difference between a G major and an E minor? There's only one note difference. That's it. And when people, if you think about it, there's a lot of people who don't play the minor chords unless they absolutely have to because it's so prominently. Like say, for example, Foggy Mountain Breakdown, which is G, E minor, and D. You got no choice to play that E minor. You can't just play G, 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 and D. So it's really very obvious in that song there's an E minor. But this one is a very subtle E minor. It's a one note difference between a G major and an E minor. G major is G, B, and D. Those three notes make a G chord. G, B, and D, the first, third, and fifth. An E minor substitutes that D note for an E note. So when you're making an E minor chord, the very top string is an E. You're making an E note instead of a D note. That's the only difference between the two. So when you play in this song, even if you don't know there's an E minor chord there, you'll wind up still playing an E note within that to indicate there is an E minor chord there. So I'm going to play a G, G7C, G, E minor before I go to D. Now let's look at this one here. It's the same way it's played here, G, C, and D. So if I was to play this, you can hear the temperature, the timing, the tempo, everything. When you can hum and you'd hum around with it. But let's do this number. Let's go to my version of I Fly Away, and you can definitely see it. I'm gonna put this in the key of G, so you can see exactly what I'm talking about here. Now you see this G7 here before it goes to the C. Now you can also see the E minor, because if it don't, it's going to have a long period of G before it gets to D. I want to throw a variation in there, that one note difference, to make say, hey, this is when I want to hear that one word, that one part of the song. Then before I go back to D and G. So this, and basically the verse and chorus is identical to what it's playing. The only difference between the verse and the chorus is the melody line. Just saying, hey, I'm going to go sing a higher notes, but I'm still staying within the G chord when I sing the chorus. So this is the basic concept of rhythm. Now, if we look at this and say, okay, now what we got to do when we play the lead or the melody on this is to fit that melody or lead line within the constructs of the chords. What can we play that'll fit the scales? We can just play scales if we wanted to. If we don't know the song well enough, we could play arpeggios. That would work. As long as I'm playing the G, B, and D notes, I could play along right through here. As long as I include that F note for G7. Okay? So we could play arpeggios to fill in. We could play simple riffs, leads. We may not know the exact melody line, but it will still fit within the construct of the rhythm. So when you sing along with it, you could hear the ups and downs, the bass, the highs, and you can know the song pretty well. That's the biggest thing about any instrument, is knowing the rhythm up, the rhythm section. How many times do you play a certain chord before you change? What would be the best chord to go from this particular case? So like I said, if I want to put this in 1-4-5 to show you, I'm going to chord display it as 1-4-5 so we can see it. No matter what key we're in, no matter what key I'm in, this will still work. If I'm in G, this will be G's 1, 4 C, okay? And the minor chord is always a 6th minor. So no matter what key I'm in order to go from a 1 to 4, if I got a long period here, I'm going to throw a 7th in there. And then I want to throw a 6th minor in to complement that 1 major. So we always look at, when we look at sheet music, if we're looking at the key of C, there's no sharps or flats. It's also the key of A minor, no matter which way you look at it. Which are you playing, the major or the minor mode? So when we throw a minor key in there, we want to throw the 6th minor in to say, hey, we're still in the same construct here. We only got 1 note difference, but let's vary it and get back to that 1 again. Then we got the 5, or and we're playing the G, that'd be our D chord. Knowing to play your arpeggios and fills until you get to the next one, and do the same thing, repeat process. When you do that, that's how most people play by what they call by ear. I want you to teach you how to play by understanding.